Sometimes your dog isn't staring at your hands because they're impatient. They're running a quiet experiment. When that hand moves toward a pocket, a collar, a bowl, a leash, a toy, or their body, what happens next? Does the world get better, tighter, more exciting, more confusing? Does that hand bring safety, control, restraint, play, relief, or pressure? To you, it's a tiny movement. To your dog, it can be the moment they decide whether to lean in, brace, follow, back away, or ask for distance. You've probably seen it without thinking much about it. You reach into a bag and your dog locks onto your fingers. You touch the leash hook and they appear out of nowhere. You move a hand toward the collar and suddenly they duck. You try to pet over the head and the eyes change. Maybe it's a puppy following every hand like it's magic. Maybe it's a rescue dog who seems to track every movement near their body. Maybe it's your otherwise easy dog becoming strangely intense when your hands get near food, toys, the couch, or their chew. Most people explain this one of three ways. My dog is begging. My dog is obsessed with treats. My dog is being dramatic or difficult about being handled. And honestly, that seems reasonable, because our hands really do deliver the things dogs care about. Food, toys, touch, doors opening, leashes clipping on, things being taken away. But that explanation is only the surface. What your dog may really be doing is something much deeper and much more intelligent. They may be reading your hands as the clearest signal of what happens next. Excitement, attachment, stress, learned expectation, even old emotional memory can all live inside that one look. In this video, we're going to unpack why dogs watch human hands so closely, how to tell anticipation from anxiety, and how to respond in a way that reduces conflict and builds trust. Because when you understand what the dog is actually tracking, the behavior stops feeling random, rude, or stubborn, and starts feeling like communication. One reason this behavior shows up so reliably is that dogs are exceptionally tuned to human movement and gestures. Researchers like Brian Hare and Adam McClosey have spent years showing that dogs are unusually good at using human social cues, especially things like pointing, body orientation, and hand movement. In simple terms, dogs become specialists in reading what we are about to do. And if you live with a dog, that makes perfect sense. Human hands are where intention becomes visible. The voice might come a second later. The object might appear a second later. But the hand moves first. Your dog doesn't need you to say the word walk if your hand is already reaching for the leash. That matters in daily life more than most owners realize. If your dog stares at your hands during training, in the kitchen, by the door, or while you're getting ready to leave, that is often not weird fixation. It's prediction. Their brain has learned that hands are the control panel of their world. Hands open the crate, fill the bowl, attach the lead, throw the toy, close the baby gate, wipe the paws, remove the sock, hide the medicine and cheese, and turn a calm room into something very different. So when your dog watches your hands, they're often doing exactly what a social, pattern-reading animal should do. They are trying to stay one step ahead of the outcome. And here's something owners often miss. Dogs will often trust the movement more than the words. You can say, "Come here," but if your hand history says that reaching means the fun ends, the dog may hesitate. You can say, "It's okay," but if your hand is hovering over a sore paw or moving fast toward the collar, the body may tense anyway. In other words, what looks like ignoring you may actually be your dog responding to the more reliable cue. Not the sentence, the gesture, not defiance. Learning. This is where the story gets more personal. Dogs do not just learn what a hand does, they learn how a hand feels in a specific context. Behavior science has been telling us this for a long time. If a cue reliably predicts something good, the body prepares with interest and anticipation. If it predicts something unpleasant, intrusive, or confusing, the body prepares with tension. That means the same dog can love your hand in one moment and worry about it in another. The hand that tosses chicken may be wonderful. The hand that reaches suddenly over the head, grabs the collar, clips nails, removes a bone, or restrains them when they're scared may mean something completely different. That is why two dogs can react so differently to the exact same movement. A puppy with a gentle, predictable handling history might bounce toward your hand because hands have mostly meant comfort, food, and play. A rescue dog who has been grabbed, rushed, cornered, or repeatedly handled without much choice may watch the same hand with caution before you even touch them. Neither dog is being moral, neither is being manipulative. They're bringing their learning history into the present moment, and once you see that, a lot of so-called problem behavior starts to make heartbreaking sense. Think about how often owners accidentally teach this. If every reach to the collar means the fun ends, the dog starts avoiding collar grabs. If every hand near the sofa means being pushed off, the dog gets up before you even touch them. If every hand going into the pantry predicts treats, your dog starts appearing the instant your fingers move. If intense staring during dinner prep makes you rush the bowl down faster, that ritual gets stronger. That's not stubbornness, that's learning. Your dog is not obsessed with your hands. Your dog is obsessed with the consequences attached to them. And there is another layer that makes this even more emotionally powerful. Dogs often use humans as a source of information and regulation when they're uncertain. Research on dog-human attachment suggests that many dogs use their person a bit like a secure base. They check us, they orient to us, they read us to figure out whether the moment is safe. When people imagine this, they usually picture the dog looking at the face. But in real life, hands are often faster and more honest than faces. You can smile and sound cheerful while your movements are tense, abrupt, or invasive. Dogs notice that. So sometimes the dog watching your hands is not just waiting for an object. They are reading your intention. They are asking, is this invitation or pressure? Is this affection or restraint? Is this predictable or sudden? In many homes, hands are the steering wheel of the dog's emotional day. That is the reframe I want you to really sit with. Your dog is not simply staring at your fingers. Your dog may be reading the future of the interaction through the part of you that changes their world the fastest. That is also why you can see mixed emotions in the same moment. A dog can be thrilled that your hand touched the treat pouch and uneasy that the other hand picked up the harness. A dog can race toward the door for the walk, then duck when the collar comes out. Excitement does not always mean comfort, and hesitation does not always mean refusal. Sometimes your dog wants the outcome, but worries about the process. When owners miss that distinction, they label the dog inconsistent. When they catch it, they can change the part that feels hard. Once you see it that way, frustration softens. The dog who backs away from the harness may not hate walks. They may hate the rushed hand that appears over their shoulders. The dog who watches your hands every time you sit down may not be needy in a shallow way. They may have learned that your smallest movement predicts togetherness or separation. The dog who freezes when you reach near a chew may not be trying to challenge you. They may be telling you that hands near valued items have become emotionally loaded. Suddenly the question changes. Instead of, how do I stop this annoying behavior? It becomes, what has my hand come to mean here? That question is incredibly useful because it tells you what to do next. Start with context. A dog watching your hand while you unwrap turkey is different from a dog watching your hand while you reach toward their face. Look at the whole body, not just the eyes. A soft body, loose mouth, wiggly movement, and easy recovery usually point to normal expectation. A still body, closed mouth, lip licking, blinking, head turning away, pinned ears, whale eye, weight shifting back, paw lifting, ducking, freezing, or a growl tell a different story. If you see tension, the goal is not to insist harder. The goal is to reduce pressure and gather information. Predictability helps more than force. If your dog is uneasy when hands approach, slow the sequence down and make it readable. Let them see the harness before you put it on. Use a simple, consistent cue before you touch the collar. Move from the side instead of coming down over the head. Pause. Give the dog a second to process. When possible, invite the dog to come into the interaction, rather than chasing them with your hand. For many dogs, especially shy dogs, newly adopted dogs, and dogs with handling sensitivity, choice changes everything. A hand that waits can feel very different from a hand that takes. This matters especially with affection. Many dogs enjoy touch, but not every kind of touch, and not at every moment. A hand moving over the head, toward the face, or down onto a resting dog can feel very different from a hand offered low and to the side. If you're not sure how your dog feels, pet briefly in an area they usually enjoy, then pause. If they stay soft and ask for more, that's useful information. If they turn away, lick their lips, stiffen, or leave, that's useful too. Respecting those small answers can prevent bigger ones later. It also helps to change the emotional history attached to your hands. If your hands mostly appear when you're taking something, restraining something, cleaning something, clipping something, or ending something, your dog has a reason to track them like a warning signal. Build more moments where hands predict good or neutral outcomes. Reach toward the collar, then feed a treat and release. Touch the harness, then pause and do nothing. Offer a gentle chest scratch if your dog enjoys touch there. Scatter a few treats away from your body instead of always delivering them from above. The goal is not to trick the dog. The goal is to teach that human hands are not always followed by loss of control. For excited dogs, the answer is a little different. Some dogs watch hands because they've learned that hand movement is the slot machine of life. Bowl appears, ball appears, door opens. In those cases, the behavior may be less about fear and more about arousal and reinforcement history. Here, calm routines matter. If your dog becomes frantic during food prep, hovering under your hands, jumping, whining, or staring intensely, try changing the picture before that arousal explodes. Use distance, a gate, or another predictable waiting setup if your dog is comfortable with it. Prepare the food without the dog rehearsing panic at your elbows. Then let calmer behavior be what accesses the bowl, not the frantic spiral. The same logic applies to dogs who get worried when hands approach things they value. If your dog stiffens when you reach for a chew, toy, stolen sock, or piece of trash, do not turn it into a test of obedience, and do not punish the warning signs. A growl is communication. A freeze is communication. Reaching in faster can escalate risk. Safer responses are management, prevention, and trades. Create space. Toss higher value food away from the item if it's safe to do so. Keep tempting objects out of reach when you can, and if this pattern is frequent or intense, bring in a qualified professional who uses humane, fear-aware methods. Hand-related tension around resources can improve, but not through confrontation. And if children or visitors are part of the picture, hand reading becomes even more important. Fast, unpredictable hands can be difficult for many dogs, especially puppies, adolescent dogs, and dogs with a fearful history. Management is not overreacting here. It is wise. Give the dog space, coach people not to reach over the head or corner the dog, and let the dog approach at their own pace. A dog who watches hands carefully around guests is telling you the social picture needs to be simpler, not more forced. A lot of owners also need permission to stop taking hand sensitivity personally. If a dog ducks from touch, resists collar grabs, tracks hands around the couch, or startles when someone reaches over them, it does not automatically mean you have a bad relationship. Sometimes it means the dog is young and still learning the meaning of human contact. Sometimes it means the dog has had a rough or inconsistent history. Sometimes it means the handling is too fast, too direct, or happening when the dog is already stressed. Sometimes it means there may even be physical discomfort, especially if the change is sudden or focused around one body area. That is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to observe more carefully. This is where the distinction really matters. Hand watching by itself is often completely normal. Dogs are routine detectives. They notice pockets, cupboards, lead hooks, treat jars, and tiny finger movements because those details matter in their world. Hand watching becomes more important when it looks like hypervigilance, fear, or escalating conflict. If your dog is persistently tense around hands, flinches, hides, startles, snaps, growls during ordinary handling, or has suddenly changed how they respond to touch, that deserves closer attention. Calmly reduce pressure, avoid forcing the issue, and get support from a qualified behavior professional and from your vet if pain or a sudden behavior shift could be part of the picture. There is also a beautiful side to this behavior that people miss when they only think in terms of training. Dogs watch our hands because they are trying to live inside human life with us. Our species built a world of handles, doors, bowls, clips, phones, keys, pills, brushes, toys, towels, and leashes. Dogs don't control any of those things. We do. So they learn the small movements that tell them whether life is about to open up or narrow down. In that sense, your dog's attention to your hands is not just about management. It's about relationship. It is one of the ways they stay connected to our strange human system. And maybe the most powerful reframe is this. Sometimes the dog who watches your hands most closely is not the dog giving you the hardest time. Sometimes it's the dog working the hardest to understand you. The puppy who studies every movement is building a dictionary. The rescue dog who tracks your reach is collecting evidence. The older dog who glances at your hand before settling may simply want reassurance that the next thing will make sense. When you answer that attention with clarity instead of irritation, a lot can change. Less guessing, less conflict, more trust. So if your dog watches your hands, don't rush to label it as greed, clinginess, defiance, or drama. Ask what the hands predict in that moment. Ask what the body is saying around the eyes. Ask whether your dog is anticipating, worrying, or simply following a pattern that has worked before. Then respond accordingly. Slow down. Make the picture clearer. Reward calmer choices when you see them. Stop using your hands only to control. And if the behavior carries fear, conflict, or risk, treat that as communication worthy of support, not something to suppress, because beneath that everyday little stare is a very dog question. What happens now, and am I safe with you while it happens? When owners understand that question, they stop fighting the surface and start helping the dog underneath it. And that is where better behavior usually begins. If you've noticed your dog doing this, I'd love to hear what your hands seem to predict in your house. The leash, cheese, medication, bedtime? A stolen sock being reclaimed? Tell me in the comments, because these tiny moments reveal so much about how dogs learn and trust. And if you want more videos that turn ordinary dog behavior into something deeper, subscribe. There's a lot more your dog has been saying in plain sight.